to
Good afternoon to Ms. Batsala, Ms. Jane, and Ms. Uma. Today, we'll be talking about our Ring a Ring for Roses campaign for Group 6, and we'll be discussing our progress and our planning. First of all, let us introduce our members. First of all, we have Ian Tan, who is the group leader. He's the one that organizes the members and delegates tasks, while also being in charge of the Gantt chart. Next of all, we have Tan Xiao Miao. She designs the posters and also is in charge of posting during specific days. Third of all, it's me, Chia Jen En. I'm the class rep in charge of the employer project on also creating this presentation slide. Moving on, we have Tan Jae Yang, who designs posters and also brainstorms ideas and to create new and creative ways to present and even to create our posters. Finally, we have Nurain, who also designs our posters and also in charge of posting her content on specific days. Moving on, these are the topics that we're going to post about. First of all, it's Ring a Ring for Roses, summary of forms of DV, the social theories behind DV, the DV Act of 1994, the effects of reporting incidents, and finally, we're going to share about knowing the signs of domestic violence. On the another side of the page is Group 6 project progress, which will be explained at the end of this presentation. Moving on, this will be my poster. I'll be posting this. So my topic today will be Ring a Ring for Roses. So what is RARA? RARA, simply to put, is a movement pioneered by Mums Village Venture, calling out bystander intervention, providing peer support, and creating a safe psychosocial and support environment for victims of abuse. What is their vision? Simply to put, their vision is to seeking to create a safe environment, a safe home, a safe place, a safe enclosure to encourage generational healing. How do they help? Moving on, how do they help? They help in two aspects, the short term and the long term. First of all, in the short term, they focus on power dynamic restoration. Second of all, they focus on increasing the woman's household income from 0 to at least 30% of the household income. That also includes raising the women's of abuse, the women's daily salary or daily income by at least 10 ringgit per day. Moving on, it also encourages survivor healing and encouraging victims of abuse to heal and to rebuild their lives and themselves at their own pace. Moving on, we have long-term goals, long-term vision, and some of these include reducing the dependency that victims of abuse have on shelter homes, being more independent for themselves so that they don't have to rely on the kindness of strangers. Moving on is encouraging healing, not just healing for today, not just healing for right now or for tomorrow, but even across generation, in the future, in the far future, healing across all sorts. And of course, finally, they are involved in changing policies by introducing the better intervention in Malaysia to increase awareness, increase support for all victims of abuse. Moving on, I shall pass the time to Ian Tan. Thank you very much.
all right, thank you, Chenan. We'll also be having a unique activity. Group 6 will be conducting an interview in conjunction with the Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So we have already invited 3 panel speakers, ideally a criminologist, a social worker, and psychologist, as advised by Ms. Vatsala. So we're still awaiting answer from them. But ideally, we'll have these 3 speakers for our interview, and we will be throwing them questions such as, what are the red flags for when looking for a partner, how to identify abusive relationships as a bystander, what happens after abuse for both veterans and victims, and many more questions that viewers will be able to throw out during our Facebook Live interview. So we will be having this one of the Mondays from 27th of September onwards. We are still waiting for an answer from our speakers, and then we will run this interview on Facebook Live. So next, I'll pass to Jiang to explain his 2 posters.
So I'll be doing the forms of domestic violence, which has 6 forms of domestic violence. Includes physical violence, emotional violence, sexual violence, psychological violence, and verbal abuse, and finally is financial abuse. These are the 6 forms of domestic violence. Next. And the other poster, which will be posted in week 11, is how can we help them by making a police report. First, if possible, we should have the evidence or any pictures of injury, and then we can start the application for IPO, which is interim protection order, a court document which prohibit perpetrators from committing abuse. It also covers other family members such as children, but it does not cover non-married couples. Then get a referral letter from the police and go to the nearest welfare office with the police report and referral letter and IC. Then the welfare officer will accompany you to the court to apply for an IPO. And then once the investigation ends, then the case will be charged in court, and then you will need to apply for protection order. And I'll pass the time to Ryan.
Theories of domestic violence. We are
Sorry,
we're
Nurain,
going to
you're breaking up.
show the four. Ida, shh. All right. Sorry for the connection interruption. So on week 9, we are going to post about this social theories of domestic violence. We are going to show the 4 aspects of sociological perspective that we can look at domestic violence. A person may be prone to committing domestic violence if they had witnessed relations in their childhood, or they were abused before, or they may be under the influence of alcohol. Marital conflict or having the male in control of marital wealth and decisions could be the cause of. Now, the social norm of male superiority and access be the increasing cause of domestic violence. And from the community aspect, low socioeconomic status, unemployment, isolating women, and as well as having violent circles can make one more prone to being violent towards their spouse or children. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. And then on week 10, we are going to post about the Domestic Violence Act 1994. We would like to press the public that domestic violence is a major crime in Malaysia. The Domestic Violence Act 1994 was enacted to protect both women and men from spousal abuse. The victims can also get an interim protection order to prohibit the perpetrator from using violence against the victims. Now I'll pass on to Rebecca.
Okay, thank you, Narain. So right now I'll be talking about our Week 12 poster, the signs of domestic violence. So I've came up with 4 signs of domestic violence in my poster. And the first one is that your partner will physically, sexually, emotionally, and verbally abuses you. And your partner bullies, threaten, or control you. And thirdly, your partner will cut you off from your friends and family and stops you from contacting them. And lastly, the abuser will blame their violence on circumstances such as them being stressful or even just their partner's behavior or just having a bad day. So it's important to take note of these signs because anyone can be an abuser and they came from all groups, all culture, all religions, and all economic levels. So it is important to take note on these signs of domestic violence for your friends, family, and yourself. So right now, I'll be passing the time back to Ian to talk about the Gantt chart.
All right, thanks, Rebecca. So we'll conclude our presentation by just going through the Gantt chart that we've developed in the beginning of the Employer project. So in the beginning, of course, we have our introduction and also forming the group, which is our group 6, these 5 members. And we were also briefed on the expected outcome from the course structures given by Ms. Jane. And then we had our kickoff meeting at week 2, where Ms. Vatsala from Monk's Village briefed us on the deliverables that we have to give, which is spreading awareness through social media platforms, which is Facebook. And then we had week 3 and 4 to make our posters, our content, and also week 5, which is right now, is when we allocated the time to record this presentation for the mid checkpoint. So for the subsequent weeks, we are going to continue arranging the interview, which I explained just now with our 3 panel speakers. And on the 27th of September, we have our first post, which is the introduction of Ring a Ring for Roses, Ring a Ring for Roses by Jen Eun. And then the second post, which is the following Monday, we have Forms of BV. The third post is the social theories of DV. The fourth post is the DV Act of 1994. The fifth post would be reporting a betterer. And the final post would be knowing the signs of DV. And for week 13, we will wrap up the whole employee project with a final presentation to just reflect on the whole process. So this wraps up our Gantt chart. We would like to thank Ms. Jane and Ms. Uma and also Ms. Vasa for making this employee project successful. So this concludes our presentation. Thank you, everyone.